Okay, dear students, oh boy, welcome back to our second presentation on housing. And yeah, this is a real slog. As we said in the first presentation, trying to teach about real estate is in a book or in a classroom setting is just not the most ideal way to learn. You really got to experience it. And for many people, every year they go through the process, and we got to remind you that buyer's remorse is real. It's a very um, draining and stressful uh, uh, undertaking, but hey, thousands of people do it every year, so you can do it too. So let's take a look at the home buying process. Step number one: determine your home ownership needs. How much can you afford? Did we mention we wanted you to get pre qualified? Yes, yes, yes. Go to your credit union, find a good referral for a mortgage broker, maybe a bank, and they will tell you how much you can afford, right? Because they're going to do basically the same stuff we do. They're going to create a cash flow statement, a balance sheet, net worth statement, and the like, and they're going to want to know where are the funds for the down payment. They're going to want to verify your income and your ability to make the payments. And some people will say, I want to get my dream house, but the first house might not be what you eventually want to live in someday. Maybe it is. After a few years, though, most people are very comfortable with their house, and they say, "Oh, we don't really need to upsize. We don't need to upgrade. We're doing just fine. Thank you very much." Now, location. This is the cute little saying that the real estate agents have. What's the three most important things in real estate? Location, location, location. Okay, it's funny. I went first time, but not the 1200th time. Can you park your RV in your front yard, front of your house? Be aware of the zoning laws. Many people will buy just because the school system has a phenomenal record, or maybe they won't buy because it doesn't have a phenomenal record. Now, real estate agents, you know, it's gotten much, much, much harder to do a transaction without a real estate agent, but you have to remember that these people are sharks, folks. I mean, there's a few that are actually uh, have ethics, but no, be careful. Their job is to represent your offer, negotiate the price, assist you on obtaining financing, and represent you at the closing and stab you in the back if you're not careful. Get a good referral. And sure, go ahead, sue me, real estate agents. I've got plenty of ammunition that some of it is from me, some of it is from published studies that show that you, real estate agents, don't always uh, act in the client's best interest. Yeah, there's a wonderful book, horrible name, called Freakonomics. And this guy he's a genius. He's an economics genius. And he finds these really quirky things that are common knowledge and turn out to be wrong, or cause and effect that are just astounding. And one of the things he did was take thousands of transactions, real estate transactions, and he was able to tease out those that were uh, done for a real estate professional, as opposed to the real estate professional doing it for somebody else. And what he found is that if they were real estate professionals selling their own home, their own property, they would often wait a week or two. If they got an offer, they said, no, you can wait a little longer, because they knew they could actually get a better price if they just waited a little longer. But you see, the incentives are all wrong. The real estate agent doesn't get paid until the deal is done, and they get a percentage. So why would they want to wait an extra couple of weeks when it's not their skin in the game? If they wait an extra couple of weeks and a person gets another $5,000-$10,000, it's only going to translate to $100 to them, not much money at all. Whereas if it's their property, it's going to translate into another $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. And of course, when he published this, the real estate agents jumped up and down and screamed and hollered and said, how could you say this? And he said, here's the data. And my personal experience is dealing with a real estate agent who would tell me, oh, you should always use a real estate agent when you buy because the seller pays the commission. Now, is that true? Yes. The seller typically, although it's negotiable, does pay the commission. But the same real estate agent, the same one, sometime later said, oh, you should always use a real estate agent when you sell because the price price of the commission is built into the price of the house. So the buyer pays the commission. This is the same person who said this. And what did I do? I kept my mouth shut. I didn't try to show. I just thought, oh my God. And this is the thing. They believe this. They tell themselves this. Don't worry, we're going to insult everybody by the end of the semester. Wait till I get the stockbrokers and life insurance agents. But really, folks, you have to be careful. Now, if you are a buyer, you can play the game. Don't get a real estate agent to help you buy unless you can get a really good referral and somebody you trust, and then it's worth it. But this is what the real estate agents will do. If you have you have a buyer agent, what's going to happen is that when the transaction goes through, the buyer's agent and the seller's agent will split the commission. That's typically how it happens. It doesn't have to happen that way. It's negotiable, but that's what typically happens. If you do not have a buyer agent, then the seller's agent gets to keep the whole commission. So they will, and they've done it, I've seen it, they will push your offer, even if it's not more money, they will push it ahead of other people's offer because it's going to give them a higher commission. This is what you're up against, folks. And ethics is something that is required for them to learn. And of course, they believe that they're ethical. They obviously believe they're ethical. Everybody wants to believe they're ethical, but be careful. Obtain an appraisal. It's going to happen anyway, so you don't really need to have it happen. My recommendation would be just get on your bicycle and ride around the neighborhood and see what similar houses are selling for, are sold for, and do your own little appraisal. A real estate agent will say, "Oh, we'll do a little pre-appraisal. We'll do our own little pre-appraisal just to get your business." A home inspection. Maybe, maybe not. These home inspectors I have found to be not very useful and very expensive. If you're going to really want to get a home inspector, get a plumber that you trust, get an electrician that you trust, get a contractor you trust to get in there and take a look at it and tell you what needs to be done. Now, you should offer to pay them because their time is very valuable and they're going to do a whole lot better job than a home inspector, in my humble opinion. Of course, as we said, we will insult everybody by the end of this semester. Determining the home's value. As we said, you do the work. Go do the work. See what places have just sold for, what they're selling for. Ride around on your bicycle. That's the best way, in my humble. Get some exercise while you're doing it. Negotiating the purchasing price. Now remember, the buyer's agent is supposed to act in your best interest. But no. The buyer's agent knows that the seller is going to be paying the commission. So the buyer's agent may be thinking about you, but they're more thinking about the commission, and they're thinking about the seller. So again, find somebody you trust. I have a couple of names I can give you of people who are very ethical, and I even asked them once. I said, "Where's the ethics in your business?" And he said, "Well, some people are ethical and some people not so much." He was honest. Is it a seller's or a buyer's market? Oh my goodness, San Diego. Oh my goodness, San Diego. Well, things are starting to soften up, aren't they? But in general, more people want to live here than there are homes, and we got to deal with that. Of course, we got a lot of people screaming and hollering saying, we don't want to be like Miami with high rises everywhere. Well, guess what? We got to do something, right? Maybe put housing out on the ocean somehow? No, forget that. There's a wonderful book about that. Anyway, forget that. Earnest money. What is the earnest money? Sometimes it's called the it's not a down payment. It's not a down payment. It's a deposit, basically. We want to buy this house, so we're going to give you $5,000 or whatever. Now, if you don't actually wind up buying it because you've taken it off the market, basically, and there's no more offers coming in, then they want to keep that $5,000. So what you can do, and again, if you have a buyer's agent, they're going to help you do this, is put in what are called contingency clauses. I love that word, contingency. In other words, hey, this is contingent on me finding or getting financing. You're pre-approved, right? Or it's contingent on the sale of my current home because I'm going to use the proceeds from that home to buy this home. So make sure you don't lose your earnest money. You're not down payment, that's separate. But your money to keep to take the house off the market and don't entertain any more offers. Okay, we told you to get pre-approved. If your down payment is less than 20%, often the mortgage company is going to require what's called private mortgage insurance. We'll discuss that in just a bit. You want to apply and qualify for the mortgage, assuming you haven't pre-qualified. Get pre-qualified. And then there's a separate presentation for the discussion of points versus interest rates. What are points? Well, points are things at the end of a stick that they poke you in the eye with. Well, close. Not in this case, though. It's called a buy down. If you believe you want to live in this house for a long time, you would take more points, pay more points, and get a lower interest because over the life of the loan, you're going to spend less. However, if you know you're only going to be here, maybe you're in the military and you're only going to be here for a little while, then it makes more sense to pay as few points, as little upfront costs, closing costs as they're called. Well, points are just part of the closing costs. Because you know, hey, I'm not going to be living here that long. That way you'll have a lower monthly payment. And so in the presentation, what you will see is the inverse relationship between the interest rate and the points. The lower the interest rate, the higher the points, and the higher the interest rate, the lower the points. Now, what is 1 point? It's 1% of the loan. It's the privilege you get, you have to pay for getting the loan. So every 1 point is 1% of the loan. So definitely, if you have to stop the presentation here and go run over to the other one, because this in the face-to-face class, this is what we would do right now. We'd say, okay, take a look at this, and so you do that. That's a separate presentation, so check that out. Here's PMI. It's kind of like PMS. What are you going to do? It's part of the industry. Private mortgage insurance protects the lender from financial loss due to default on the loan. Well, okay, it protects the lender, but who pays for it? You, the borrower. What a scam. What a deal. Because without it, they don't want to give you the loan. It's usually required if the home buyer puts down less than 20% on the home. When the equity builds to 20%, it is supposed to end automatically. But hey, the lender's not going to get rid of it automatically. No, they're not paying for it. It's protecting them. So you have to petition them and say, hey, I have 20% equity in my home. I want to get rid of my PMI. And they might even charge you a couple $100 to do the assessment. I've never seen this happen, and I should do more research because I have a funny feeling it's a little too good to be true. Supposedly, you could avoid it by taking out 2 loans, a 80% fixed rate loan, what we'll talk about, and then the home equity line of credit that we discussed in Chapter 5. The home equity line of credit is going to be more expensive and not necessarily tax deductible. So, yeah, I think it's too good to be true. Yes, get that down payment up as much as you can and pay down your mortgage and get rid of that PMI. Now, slide 24, types of mortgages. Well, we're going to mostly calculate and look at conventional mortgages, sometimes called fixed rate, fixed payment, fully amortized mortgages. Typically 30 years, although you could do it for less time and pay a whole lot less in interest, as we'll see. They want 20% down, but hey, how easy it is to get $80,000 lying around the house these days, or $120,000. Not. So maybe 5%, 10%. First time home buyers, 3%. Yes, right. We expect to pay plenty of PMI and blah, blah. So the more you, in my humble opinion, now there are some people who say, no, 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 you want the lowest down payment as possible. You want to pay me now or pay me later. Adjustable rate mortgages. Now we're not going to do a calculation. Actually, there's one little calculation I want you to think about in the assignment about an adjustable rate mortgage. What's different? Well, it's adjustable. It changes over time, up and down, up or down. And a conventional fixed rate mortgage stays the same. It's 4%, 7%, whatever, and it doesn't change. Whereas an adjustable rate mortgage is going to reset every 6 months, every 12 months. There's usually a cap on how much it can reset, maybe 1% every year, and there may be a total cap. It can't go more than, say, 10% over the life of the loan. But what you're essentially doing is you're now taking on some of the risks that the lender takes on. So if the lender sells you a mortgage for 4% and interest rates go to 7%, oh well, they keep getting their 4%. So if you say, I'll take an adjustable rate mortgage, interest rates go from 4 to 7%, your interest rate is going to go up. Of course, if interest rates go down, you'll get to enjoy that break in the interest rates. You won't have to refinance for a better rate. Now, some of these are really dangerous. The option ARM, the optional adjustable rate mortgage. This was the culprit, one of the main culprits of what happened in the mid-2000s with the negative amortization, which is a fancy way of saying the loan ain't going down, it's going up. And there's a presentation on what happened after the wheels fell off of the economy, after the train left the tracks and destroyed everything in its path as it went through the world. And so check out the dreaded optional adjustable rate mortgage. You have to ask yourself a question. Are you willing to take on this risk? They will, of course, give you a lower rate. Hey, to start off, but then remember, it's going to reset after 6 months or not 12 months. But if you don't plan on living in the house for quite some time, it may be a good option. I'm not a fan of them. That doesn't mean you shouldn't use them, especially if interest rates are high. You can bank on, or you can guess, interest rates going lower. But remember, there are people with a whole lot of letters behind their name, like PhD and all those other things. And they are paid tremendous sums of money to incorrectly predict where interest rates are going to go. Can you imagine how much money they make if they could correctly predict where interest rates are going to go? Now, if you are part of the military, the VA has some wonderful programs, and talk to your folks at the VA because, oh my goodness, 0% down. Wouldn't that be wonderful to be able to buy a house with 0% down? And then FHA is often for people who are just starting out, first-time home buyers, and they have some pretty good programs too. Now, some mortgages, slide 25, have what's called the graduated payments. This was a typical characteristic of the optional adjustable rate mortgage that, started you off at a very reasonable amount of money every month. And then the next year it went up $300. And the next year after that, it went up another $300 or $400. And then finally, after the third year, it went up about $500. And it reset, whatever that means. And now you have a mortgage that's almost twice as much as when it started. You don't believe me, do you? Well, this is what was going on in the mid-2000s. Somebody would get a $500,000 loan with a $1,600 a month payment. No. That's where the negative amortization came in. What happened is they were paying that $1,600 just for 1 year, and the money they should have been paying to pay the interest was getting tacked on to the loan. So the loan wasn't going down, it was going up. And the next year it went up to $1,950. And the third year it went up to $2,400. And the fourth year it went up to $2,900. And now the person can't make the payments. And the mortgage has ballooned to $530,000 or whatever it is. And now you're in trouble. And that's what happened in the Great Recession, in the global financial crisis. Many people who should never have been given these loans in the first place were, because all they had to do was say, yes, I'm breathing and I'm making $80,000 a year when I'm only making $30,000. Yeah, it was a mess. And so check out the presentation on the monthly mortgage resets and the dreaded option arm mortgages. Some loans, typically home equity line of credits, come with interest only. I love it. It's pronounced IO. Yeah, I know, IO. And then there are balloon mortgages. Balloon mortgages. What are these? Well, they're actually very useful for you if you know you're not going to stay in the house for 5 or 7 years, whatever. You'll see this. You'll see 30 due in 7, 30 due in 5. And what does that mean? Well, they're going to create the loan as if it were 30 years, but after 5 years or 7 years, they want you to pay off the rest of the mortgage. That's why it's called a balloon mortgage, a balloon payment. And obviously, no one's going to come up with $375,000. What people do is they typically will have sold the house by then, or maybe refinanced. Now, why would you want to do this? You know you're not going to be in this house for more than 5 years. And by going with a 30 due in 5, they will give you a much better interest rate, which means your payments will be lower and you'll pay less in interest. So there's a trade-off here, right? If you wind up not wanting to leave the house, then you've got a problem. You've got to refinance. And of course, talk to your lender if you've been a good little droogie making the payments and you have, income and a good credit score. They'll want to refinance because that means more money for them, especially the people doing the servicing. That's how they make their money, through doing more mortgages. Okay. Now, we discussed the second mortgage, the home equity line of credit, and maybe tax deductible, not so much anymore. Reverse mortgages provide elderly with tax-free income based on the home equity. Oh boy, be careful. Whenever you see any kind of financial product hawked on the television by a celebrity who doesn't know anything about this, just being paid to say wonderful things about it, please, your radar should go up. Your antenna should be saying, oh, danger, danger, warning. Get a lawyer. These things are designed not to have people kicked out of their home, but it can happen, and it does happen. And there's at least one link, as I remember. There's one, maybe a second one, of on the website in Canvas that shows you that, yeah, reverse mortgages have made people get kicked out of their houses. And the same thing is true for these shared appreciation mortgages, equity sharing. And they're just sexy. They're just so enticing. Hey, you don't have to pay us anything now. We'll give you $50,000. And then when you sell your house or pass away or whatever, we'll take half of the appreciation. So people have been royally burned by these. And they're usually the elderly, of course. And so they look at the house that has gone from $350,000 to now $1.1 million, and they have to give half of that appreciation back to the lender. And these things are legal. I don't think they should be, personally, but I'm not in charge. Just be very careful. Talk to a lawyer. Find somebody you trust, a qualified financial person. I'll be happy to help anybody do my best to dissuade them from doing this, because I've seen the results. I've seen how people have just been royally screwed, and they thought they were going to be able to give an inheritance to their heirs, or be able to use the equity in the home later on, and no, they've been stabbed in the back by the financial services industry. And of course, anybody who tries to say anything like this is called a socialist, a communist, whatever. Oh well, oh well. The buyer beware. When interest rates fall, it's always a good idea to entertain the notion of refinancing. But the problem is you're going to wind up paying all the same closing costs that you paid the first time when you finance. So it may be a good idea, it may not be a good idea. And one of the problems on the assignment is to ask you, is this a good idea? How much is it going to save you over the previous payment? And how much will it cost to buy back, to pay back, to break even those closing costs that you had to pay to refinance the mortgage? Mortgages and financing fees. It used to be almost impossible to compare apples to apples when shopping for a loan. A lower interest rate was usually some kind of come on in exchange for being soaked with garbage fees. And the loan applicants often were not made aware of those extra fees until the day of the closing. There'd be a line item. Loan disbursement fee, $15,000. What is loan disbursement fee? What are you charging me for? Well, that's the loan disbursement fee. You're charging me $15,000 to write a check? To wire the money? I mean, is that what you're doing? No, that's the loan disbursement fee. Well, not anymore, folks. Not anymore. It is much safer and easier now. New rules forbid bait and switch maneuvers that used to be commonplace. This goes back many years. In 2003, there was an effort to create a standardized method for pricing home loans. The industry shot it down. But after the 2008 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and 13 debacle in the home loan industry, now the home loan reform advocates have gotten their way. So they're going to give you a best guess estimate. Now, you have to remember that every day the thing is changing, especially because you have to calculate how much prepaid interest and all that other stuff. So it's not going to be exact, but it's going to be close. And if it isn't, they're breaking the law, and scream and holler, find somebody you trust, and maybe you might even get a reward. I don't think that's whistleblower reward. I don't think there's a whistleblower reward for these things, but be careful. Okay, now the question here on slide 28 is, should I have a large down payment? Should I pay off my mortgage early? And really, these are the same question. The two are really the same question. How much of the home should you own? And how much of it should the mortgage company, the bank, the credit union own? Isn't it nice? They own your house mostly, right? Especially at the beginning. Isn't it nice that they let you live in it? It's your house. Your name's on the title, but they are the entity that has financed it. So they're basically your partner. And what you're going to hear depends on what situation the person's in. The real estate agent says, no, don't use a large down payment. Don't pay off your mortgage early. You're going to buy a new house every 4 or 5 years, right? So that she can make another commission. The financial representative says, oh, no, you should invest the extra in a mutual fund. So he or she can make another commission. I says, if you intend on staying in your house for more than a few years, yes, have a large down payment, pay off your mortgage early, make love, not loans. That's why there's chocolate, vanilla, and some people like strawberry. I was at a party once, real quick story, and I don't know how we got in the topic, but I was saying in our class, we really push people to buy down their loans, pay down their debt, especially their mortgage over time, because there's nothing, such a great feeling. It used to be a virtue. People would have mortgage burning parties, and they would celebrate that they are no longer having to feed this dragon every month. And a couple of guys at this party, these are very, relatively well-off individuals, just excoriated me. Said, what are you talking about? You want to die with the biggest mortgage you can. And I didn't know what to say, other than to say, well, that's great. It's a great strategy if you know when you're going to die. But you'll hear people say, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have done things a whole lot differently. So you have to decide. And people have asked me because they think I know what I'm talking about. I guess I think I do, right? Should I'm in near retirement. I have this much money coming from a settlement or from an inheritance or whatever. Should I pay down my mortgage or should I invest it? And I say yes. And they say, what? that was not a yes or no question. That was an either or. Well, I said, if you're making your mortgage payments now and you're doing fine, fine, invest it. But if you pay down your mortgage, then you're going to have more cash. You pay off your mortgage, you're going to have more cash flow. So both of these are good situations. If you had told me you were going to go to Las Vegas and spend it all on a great weekend, $80,000, I've heard of people spending that much money on a weekend. I can't imagine what they were doing for that much money. But hey, both of those are great ideas. Investing and paying down debt are both great ideas. But if it's up to me, I'll pay down the debt because I make love, not loans. All right, slide 29. We mentioned refinancing. When interest rates trend lower, many homeowners consider refinancing their mortgage and getting a lower interest rate. Payments usually go down as a result, but what's the problem? You have to sell the house back to yourself. You have to pay all those points and closing costs all over again. The rule of thumb is if you can get your rate down by 2%, then go ahead and refinance. But sometimes you'll see these very low cost or no cost refinancing. And as long as your rate's going down, even if it's not by much, it will still make sense to refinance. Realizing that it's a very stressful process. You're going to find all about that when that mortgage broker or their representative, usually a notary public, drops 140 pages in front of you and you have to sign each one or initial each one. It's a stressful situation or deal. Okay, the step number 5, closing the purchase transaction. Here are all the closing costs. And now why are they called closing costs? Because what you do, folks, is you cover your eyes, you close your eyes, and you sign. No. You really should skim through the documents, but folks, you can't. There are just 100 pages of legalese that you can't figure out. But you should do your best to just peruse these and see what they're doing, and don't be afraid to ask. But it's going to be an ordeal. Now, what's title insurance? We'll talk about that on its own slide. That protects you in case there was any kind of hanky-panky going on. Or typically it's hanky-panky. Sometimes it's inadvertent, but usually someone's trying to pull the wool over your eyes. The escrow fees, those are the bean counters. Those are the people who are putting all the monies in the right place. The attorney's fees, some states it's just de rigueur. It's just, you're expected to have an attorney. Not so much California, but it's no reason why you can't. An appraiser's fee, that's going to be charged because every house has to be appraised. The lender won't lend you the money until it's been appraised. Any surveys, recording fees, credit reports, termite inspection, there's the point. It's called the lender's origination fee. The tax and insurance reserve, because the property taxes and the insurance have to be paid. Any prepaid interest for the month, which is kind of cool because that means the next month you get a month off without having to pay your mortgage. And then, of course, the real estate commission, which is typically paid by the seller, but may be paid by both. It's negotiable. Insist on a walkthrough. Now, what does this mean? If you're buying a home and there's this beautiful chandelier, you could say in the purchase agreement, in the sales agreement, in the contract, I want you to keep the chandelier. Or maybe they offer to leave the washer and dryer. Okay, so it's written in there. You show up, they give you the keys, they're gone, and the chandelier's gone, or the washer and dryer's gone. Now you're kind of screwed. Oh, we're sorry, the movers accidentally put it on the truck and it's on its way to Bremerton, Washington. Yeah, right. So the day before, you can say, I want to see that this stuff, before it closes, I want to make sure that this, and then if it's not there, okay, they want to knock off the money off the purchase price, the big jerks. Now, title insurance. What is title insurance? Well, many people don't really understand it, but it guarantees that the seller owns the property. Wouldn't you just love to sell something for $500,000 that you don't own? That the seller and the buyer are who they say they are, that there are no liens or other encumbrances on the property. In other words, there's no unpaid debts that the property has. And if there are, the seller's got to get rid of them before they sell. If your home was purchased or refinanced within the past few years, you can ask for, and you should get a discount on the title insurance policy. Why? Because they really don't do a whole lot anymore. It's all automated. And it's only a couple hours work, and they charge you a ton of money for this, folks. It definitely pays to shop around for title insurance. Do not assume the company your real estate agent suggests will give you the best price. My understanding is that kickbacks are illegal, but my understanding is that they also happen. So one of the states that starts with the letter I, Iowa, encouraged, I forget exactly how, title insurance competition, and title insurance premiums fell dramatically. So definitely shop around. Do not presume that you're going to get the best deal from your real estate agent. Yes. Slide number 33. We've been talking about, buying, but now what happens when you sell? Well, there's a wonderful book. JD, I forget his name now. JD. We'll discuss it later on when we get to real estate. He says, put up a white picket fence. Put up a white picket fence that will increase the value of a house $10,000, $20,000. I don't know if it's true, but that's what he says. Appraiser, I don't know. 350 might be too low nowadays. Appraisers might be a little bit more expensive. The realtor will say, oh, we'll determine the sell price for free, because they want to sign you up for their contract so that they get the commission. Check the neighborhood. As I said, get on your bicycle and ride around. You used to be able to sell your house by yourself, but it's gotten so complicated that I really should just say no. But you're going to save $40,000, $60,000, $80,000 if you do. I have sales experience. I don't have a real estate agent's license, but I thought if I ever did sell our house, which I'm not going to happen because my wife would shoot me. But if I ever did sell our house, I would go get my real estate agent's license. It's not that hard to do, and I'd sell it. But I have sales experience as a stockbroker, as an insurance agent. The listing percentage is typically 6%, but it is negotiable. For you, it could be 6%. But they might give you a deal and give you 6%. We're having a deal this week. It's 6%. No, I've seen it go down. To 5%. And so shop around. But more importantly, get a good referral for somebody you trust, because the horror stories are legion. They're out there. And keep your back to the wall. Now, what are the tax consequences of selling your house? This is very cool, and we'll talk about this more when we get to real estate as an investment. If you're single, you can shield $250,000 of capital gains tax-free. Very cool. So that means you bought the house for, let's say, $200,000. You sold it for $450,000, no capital gains. Married, you double it. That means you bought the house for $200,000. You can sell it for $700,000, tax-free capital gains. You can do this once every 2 years. So it's a little difficult for San Diego because you're up against the most sophisticated real estate investors in the world. But in some areas of the country, you could buy a fixer-upper, fix it up, live in it for 2 years, fix it up. Usually these people are very savvy with toilets and plumbing and how framing and the like, carpentry, and then sell it with no capital gains taxes after you live in it for 2 years. My advice would be don't watch the shows on flipping, But these aren't people who are flipping it, they're actually living in the house for 2 years. By the way, if you lose money on your home, there's no capital losses. Well, it's your home first and investment second. That's my humble opinion. Other people will say, no, 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 it's an investment first. It's your home second. They're usually real estate agents. But this is very cool, and we'll revisit this when we discuss real estate as an investment. Slide 34. Okay, here comes the painful part, folks. Interest rates have spiked. They've almost doubled, or they have doubled, and so we're going to take a look at how we calculate these. Well, depends on if it's a 30-year or a 15-year loan. But what we do is if we go to a mortgage broker, they're going to quote us a certain, of course, they're going to take a look at our credit score, our ability to pay, all that stuff. And let's say, okay, we got pretty good credit. They'll quote us a price of 7% for a 30-year loan, but only 6.5%, sometimes less, usually at least 0.5% less, for a 15-year loan. Now, why would that be? Well, it's a fundamental axiom, fundamental aspect of investing, that the longer the money is out there that you lend, the more interest you're going to expect. And in this case, it doesn't always work. There's some situations where it gets turned around, and those are very unusual situations that we discuss in BUS121, Introduction to Investments. But in general, the longer the money is out there, the more interest they're going to want. So if we could, we'd really love to have a 15-year loan. But wait a minute, is that going to be twice as much money? 15? No, wait, you'll see. How do we do this? Well, we use a table that is very similar to the future value tables that we used back in chapter 1. We go to the table, and so for 30 years and 7%. So now let's do that. Hang on a minute. Let me see. Make sure I don't mess things up again, because I did this once and messed up here. Okay, yeah, here it is. So here's the website, and of course it's in Canvas. We want the mortgage amortization table. Here it is. Bingo. And so we're looking at 7%. It's coming in. Hang on a minute. Not there yet. Should have done this beforehand, shouldn't I? We're looking at 7% for 30 years. So go down to 30 years, go across to 7%, 6.653. So we go back to the presentation. That's it. Now, here's the tricky part. Notice it says payment per $1,000. This is what messes people up. If we get a $400,000 loan, cross out the last 3 zeros, or just divide by 1,000. If you wind up with a payment in the millions of dollars, obviously you made a mistake, right? We're not making $2,666,000 a month payments on our mortgage. So cross out these last 3 digits and multiply the 400 times 6.653, and our monthly payment is $2,661.20. Yikes. And we're going to do that for 30 years. Well, how many payments in 30 years? Well, there's tough question. How many months in a year? 12 months times 30 years is 360 payments. And when all is said and done, after 30 years, we will have spent $958,032. Now, remember, we borrowed $400,000 of that. So $400,000 of that was not our money. But still, that's almost $600,000, $558,000 in interest. So we go to our broker, Ms. Broker, can you get us a 15-year loan? Oh, yes, and we'll only charge you 6.5%. So we go back over to this puppy over here. Okay, where is it? And it's 6.5% down to only 15 years. I'm sorry. Oh, 8.711. I got it right. 8.711, I got it right. And so 400, cross off the last three zeros, times 8.711, $3,484. Now notice it's not twice as much as the 30-year loan, but it means you have to come up with an extra $800 a month. But you only have to do that for 15 years. 15 times 12 is 180. And so you wind up spending only 600, only, right? Now you know why your banker is always so happy when you walk in the door, right? $627,192. So we're going to spend $330,000 less on a 15-year loan. But you have to come up with that extra $800. It's not optional anymore, right? You told the mortgage company you were going to make this payment every month, and they're going to expect you to do it. Now, if that's a little bit too much of a stretch, you could get the 7% 30-year loan, make the $2,661.20 payments every month, and then throw in an extra few $100 every month, or an extra $800, or make an extra. Some people like to make an extra payment, an extra mortgage payment every year. And what that will do is it'll reduce the number of years that your mortgage will be on your back, will be needing to be paid. And again, comes back to the idea of how much of the house do you want to own? How much do you want the mortgage company to own? And do you really want to make love, not loans? Or are you not going to stay here? So what do you care? It's totally up to you. So it's a little depressing, isn't it? And so now in the face-to-face class, we would do worksheet number 1, the worksheet for, excuse me, chapter 7, don't get too depressed. That's a separate there's an answer key, and there's a commentary where I walk you through it. So check it out, okay? Thank you so much for being in our class. We hope that this wasn't too depressing. Buying a home is an ordeal. There's no other way to look at it. But thousands of people do it every year, and most are usually very well rewarded by their purchases. Usually. But sometimes, as we said, the American dream can turn into a nightmare. And now for something completely different. In our next 3 chapters, we are going to go over what is typically called risk management, insurance, the necessary evil. We will be dealing with home and auto insurance, health insurance, and then life insurance. See you in our next part, the next part of our class together, where we deal with the risks that we face every day. Again, we're so proud of you. Thank you so much for being in our class. Be awesome, dear students. We want you to succeed.